When I was in elementary school, I insisted to my family that I was a tomboy, to which I got the response, "You're the girliest girl in the family." But I'll tell you right now, that is completely untrue. I'm the girliest boy in the family.
Ah, this is going to be about gender, isn't it? Okay, proceed.
I'm genderqueer. I'm somewhere between two genders and no gender at all, which confuses a lot of people, and I get that.
There's no confusion. You're female. That is your gender. Your gender expression is entirely up to you, of course, but you are female. What you are doing is trying to confuse other people. So, let's see how you do.
But this confusion removes many of the assumptions people can make about me. You can't label the box if you're not sure which box I go in to begin with.
I could make a crude comment about labeling a box here, but I'll just reiterate. You are a female. That is the gender category you fall into.
Being genderqueer for me means that I'm transgender. My gender does not align with societal expectations of my sex assigned at birth. One could even say that it transcends it.
Well, one could say that, as self-aggrandizing as it is, but then you could say a lot of things that are not necessarily true. Like, for instance, that your sex is assigned. But your sex is not assigned. You were born with a vagina. You are female. Also, I don't see any evidence that you are in transition, so the claim that you are transgender is a dubious one at best. But then, you've also just redefined transgender. That being genderqueer also means that you are transgender, that your gender does not align with societal expectations. But speaking for myself, when I saw you on the stage, I expected you to be a woman. And I was right.
Unfortunately, it also means that I am up against the widely supported statistics that say that 40% of trans people commit suicide, or attempt suicide. Compare that to the national average of 0.5%. In addition, the likelihood that we'll be murdered increases every year, which rings even more true for women of color.
A quick note that the fade edit here was a part of the original video, and not my doing. That aside, I'll stipulate to her suicide statistics. Confusion over one's sexuality or gender does, I am sure, increase the possibilities of anxiety and depression that can lead to suicide attempts and commissions. As far as homicide statistics are concerned, at the risk of sounding callous, if people like our speaker are changing the definition of who qualifies as being considered transgender, from people actively taking steps to shift their body chemistry and appearance, to also as well including people who are functionally bisexual or possess merely some degree, real or imagined, of gender dysphoria, then the number of homicides will indeed rise. Not due to an increase in such crimes, but due to the inclusion of more and more cases into the statistics that would previously not have been.
Between these stats, according to NPR, I'm not likely to live past the age of 30. For reference, I'm almost 26, and 4 years is not enough.
Okay, this is one statistic that I am not going to stipulate to, because it is entirely unfounded. There is no data on the average lifespans of transgender people to support this claim, as being transgender is not an element recorded on the national census, so there's not even firm statistics on how many transgender people there are, let alone what their average lifespan is. Now, what I can easily stipulate to is the things that are known about transgender people. The aforementioned increase in suicide attempts, the higher than average victimization of violence, and an increased risk for health problems and poverty. These factors combined may indeed reduce the average lifespan of a transgender person versus anyone else, but to say with any certitude that the average lifespan is known is a false statement. Our speaker is perpetuating a rumor here, not a fact.
I refuse to accept that I might only have 4 years left, which is exactly why I'm in the field of education, following alongside my father's footsteps.
You are an educator, operating on unfounded claims and statistics. An educator who proclaims that gender is assigned. Wonderful.
He is such an inspiration to me as a kind and determined human being. And I would be lucky to end up half the man he is.
Well, according to your opening statement, you are half the man he is.
Of course, being genderqueer, I might literally be half the man he is.
Can you believe I scripted my last line before getting to this part in the video? I swear it's true.
This subject can be hard for me to talk about. So 4 more years.
You don't know that.
I refuse to accept that. And that's not even the fear that media outlets sensationalize. They like to talk about surgery and bathrooms and completely skip over the problems that should actually matter to the general public.
Okay, what should actually matter to the general public? I do want to know what the real issues are.
Like the stats from UCLA, which tell us that 10% of the population is lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender, commonly referred to as LGBT.
Okay. Why should that really matter to the general public? That's 3 different sexual orientations and 1 category of gender dysphoria. As an aside, I have honestly never understood why transgender is included among sexual orientations. You can be a man who becomes a woman and who prefers to have sex with women. You can be a man who becomes a woman who prefers to have sex with men. Being transgender is not also a determination of sexual orientation. But I digress.
And even though only 10% of the population is LGBT, 40% of homeless youth are LGBT. To give you an idea of what that looks like, if this audience was comprised of homeless youth, everyone to my left would be LGBT. That's not okay.
Well, I would tend to argue that homeless youth, full stop, is not okay, whether they are LGBT or otherwise. But that aside, sure, this is a disproportionate statistic, and I can't find anything that outright counters the claim.
The best part of being in education for me is a faith that students have in me.
That's the troubling part, actually, that they have faith in you, while at the same time you are promoting half-truths and outright falsehoods with a side order of fear-mongering.
I have students who come in regularly looking for advice, resources, even just someone who's willing to listen without judgment. I have one student who comes in once or twice a week, who came in one day, sat me down, and with a subtle confidence said, "I think I'm a girl."
I wonder how old this student was. I wonder what sort of ideas or rhetoric our speaker had been feeding this student prior to this declaration. I wonder if our speaker has a notion that they might not have been the most objective person to be counseling this student.
It's not that anything anyone says, that any of my students say, shocks me at this point, but the idea that someone is trusting you with an aspect of their identity, especially a marginalized one, never gets old.
That didn't sound so much like an aspect of their identity as it was a child looking to you for affirmation towards an uncertain conclusion they had reached regarding their sexuality.
And that's why I do what I do. I get to be part of their story. I get to be representation for them where I had none. I still look at my job and my school and my state and see hardly anyone like me. And in some aspects, I see no one like me.
I My, me, me.
So if I'm going to make it past 4 more years, am I going to change myself to fit this world? Or am I going to convince the world to love me exactly as I am?
The world needs to love you as you are. Got it.
That I'm worthy of that love. That I'm worthy of human rights. Can I be representation for the underrepresented?
I dunno. Who has elected you to represent them? Otherwise, regardless of what you might claim, you are only representing yourself.
So what can we do? What would you say if your father, your sister, your child, if one of those people came out to you? If one of those people told you that they are gay, that they are transgender?
Gay? Well, I wouldn't care, but I guess I'm just progressive like that. Now, transgender? Well, that's where a discussion would need to be had, because of people like you muddying the waters on exactly what that means and, consequently, what such a declaration might entail.
Would you be shocked? Would you be silent? Would you believe them?
If a female relative of mine was dating girls, or a male relative of mine was dating boys, it would be an easy sell. Not really any big mystery or scandal there, but maybe that's just me. But if I'm being told by my loved one that they are trans queer, and they don't feel either male or female, so considering them as one gender or another is my buying into the social construct of what they were assigned at birth, so that they're really transgender and the world needs to love them, yeah, that would be a whole different ball of wax on the belief scale.
Would you reject them? Or could you take this opportunity to learn more about their identity, to love them, to accept them, to validate them?
Again, someone merely being homosexual and someone considering taking steps to medically alter one's appearance or body chemistry are scenarios that are worlds apart from one another. You cannot reasonably approach these things in the same way. Rejection? No. Skeptical concern? Absolutely.
And take the time to learn more. Much of the confusion, misunderstanding, and rejection of LGBT people comes from a lack of education. So I invite you to educate yourselves.
Go educate yourself. Yes, put the onus on others to understand what you see as a problem. This is a very familiar refrain. So, tell me again, on what evidence is the 30-year lifespan of transgender people based? How educated are you on some of the claims you are casually relaying to your audience, let alone your impressionable students?
Go to an LGBT sensitivity training. Do online research at websites like the Trevor Project. They're where you can find resources on how to respect a transgender person's pronouns like he, she, or they.
Respecting pronouns. Yes, it's very important that everyone else be educated on how to moderate their use of the English language to protect the feelings of others who might decide on the turn of a dime that they've been referred to incorrectly, and then choose to become offended. Got it.
What to do when someone comes out to you, how to address a name change, and more. The only thing standing in the way of true equity is education, which is within your grasp.
True equity. Equity being a synonym for justice. Using someone's preferred pronouns is a matter of justice, is it? Okay.
You can stand out and speak out against injustice. You can vote with me in mind.
Vote with you in mind. Oh, that's right. The world needs to love you. You're the center. You're the important one. How you feel about yourself has to be everyone else's concern. Got it.
You can even change my life expectancy.
No. No, I cannot. You will live as long as you will live. My voting with you in mind, or capitulating to your demands of tone policing, will have zero effect on how long you live. Oh, but that's right. You're not talking about you. You're representing an entire demographic of people who have never met you. How silly of me.
Thank you.
I do not care about your sexuality. And I'm not referring to our speaker in particular, but the royal you. Sexuality, for me, is like religion. As long as you're not forcing your sexuality on me, or using it as a cudgel with which to shame or berate others, I don't care. It's your business. Because unless I am in an intimate relationship with you, who you have sex with or how you have sex with them really doesn't matter to me, short of some kind of crime taking place. However, if you are going to redefine words in order to make yourself sexually special, if you're going to act as an educator to impressionable children and impart upon them confused notions of what gender means or how to assess their own sexuality based on your own self-centered notions, that's where I take issue. Because at that point, it's no longer really your sexuality, but has instead become your dogma. As always, thank you for watching.